what did you study? How did it lead you to UN Women? And ultimately, how does one become the regional director of the United Nations entity for gender equality and the empowerment of women for the Arab states? I mean, what a title.
Agree. It is a bit of a title. And the question is, how do you become regional director then for the Arab states? I have to say that this is a journey that possibly started already with my parents' journey. And if I would put a date on that journey, that would be 1968. That's when my parents moved from Egypt to Sweden, originally simply to finish their PhDs in nuclear physics and in Egyptology. But time flew and they stayed in Sweden for around 40 years. And I myself, I was born in Uppsala, which is the university city of Sweden. And I remember my childhood, particularly around kitchen table, the discussions were fervent, vivid, lively, and usually about politics. And that inspired me. All of these discussions I've had with my father, particularly when I was a child, inspired me to work in politics and particularly international relations. For me, it was a quite natural move then to study political science in Sweden. And then I applied for an internship at the United Nations headquarters. And I have to say that the first day I entered the UN building in New York City, it was almost as if I had come home again. I felt that the environment, it was cosmopolitan, international, but more importantly, a tremendous group of people that are profoundly interested in peace, security, international relations. So that's basically where I started my career with the United Nations. And most of my career, I've worked in humanitarian settings, i.e. war zones, famines, but also from that very acute humanitarian emergency to very development-oriented issues with the World Bank and also with UNICEF. But I have to say that if there were a number of elements that have in a way directed my career, one of them was 2011. I'm sure you remember there was tremendous famine in Somalia and the Horn of Africa. Around 250,000 people died. For me, that I was at that point working for Somalia and UNICEF, but it was a wake-up call in terms of international assistance coming in too late. So that was one of the decisive factors behind me deciding to work for a donor, and in this case, Sweden. So we moved back to Sweden. I stayed in Sweden for 10 years, most of that time as a director of humanitarian assistance. And then, of course, going back home to my roots, in a sense, to the Middle East and working with equality and gender equality, for me makes perfect sense because I do think that there's a window of opportunity right now in the region. And there is tremendous interest in the area of gender equality. And there is a window that is there, but it can close very quickly. So we have from now to 2030, really, to achieve gender equality. And I think there is basically a tremendous window here in the region. And for that reason, I was interested to work in the Arab states, and particularly in the area of gender equality.
What does full gender equality actually look like? And do you think it is achievable, particularly by 2030, like you mentioned?
It's a really good question because gender equality at the end of the day is nothing but common sense. It's about ensuring that everyone has the same opportunities in life. So gender equality is about ending all forms of violence against women, in this case, simply because you are a woman. Gender equality is about to ensure that you're not subjected to harassment at workplace or at the street because you are a woman. Gender equality is for you to choose your life path, whether it's a career or only being with your family or both. So gender equality is actually also giving men, in this case, an opportunity to spend more time with their children, being part of the raising your children. So gender equality really is, again, nothing but pure common sense. Now, will we achieve gender equality in our lifetime? There was a bit of a depressing report that came 2019, the Gender Tracker. It showed us that if we move in the same pace as we are now, then we will not achieve gender equality before 100. Now, that's way too slow. This means that we now need to speed up, accelerate, and amplify the efforts for gender equality. The good news is that the hard work is done. We have all signed to internationally binding commitment, and that's usually a difficult element to get everyone on board to agree on a certain resolution or a commitment for the gender equality, for example, or the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals 2030. We've all come together and agreed upon those. So the principles are there. The vehicle, in a sense, is there. Now it's just to move to action. And I do think that if we accelerate action in some areas, we will be able to achieve gender equality in our lifetime.
I just wanted to say that gender equality is as simple as common sense is my favorite thing that I have heard all year. I think that is just the most powerful and simply put line ever. Why does content need women?
Content needs women because because of various reasons. But if we look at social media, for example, it's a powerful tool. In a way, it's a megaphone, I would say, to different point of views, right? Because it's such diversity on social media. So if you take a look at the Me Too movement, for example, the tremendous impact it had globally, and we have our own movement through Anna Kaman, for example. But in the area of COVID-19, we've also found that there's certain groups that haven't had a voice, that have been able to use social media as a powerful tool to give voice to the ones that are usually not heard. It could be migrants, it could be refugee women, it could be women that are locked and subjected to violence and not being able to express what they're going through. So it's extremely important to hear the diversity of views, hence the importance of content.